Good morning, everybody. Wisconsin's 7th Congressional District Representative Tom Tiffany is back for our monthly Breakfast with Tiffany show today, Thursday, June 8th, 2023. For DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden, reminding you that if you have a question for our congressman, please let us know in the comments during today's live show. We are streaming today's show, as we do all of our Tuesday and Thursday live shows, right here on our Dryden Wire Facebook page. A recording of the show will also be posted on our Dryden Wire YouTube channel and on DrydenWire.com later today. So however and whenever you may be watching this, welcome and thank you for joining us. Special thank you to some of our recent guests, including Freedom Music Fest Wisconsin event organizer Amy Greenfield, Wisconsin's 25th District Senator Romaine Quinn, former Spooner police chief and self-taught artist, that was so awesome, Bobby Andrea, and of course, Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald, who joins me every Tuesday for our weekly Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy shows. But today, we're chatting with Wisconsin's 7th Congressional District Representative, which we do every second Thursday of the month, Congressman Tom Tiffany. Tom, today is National Best Friends Day, so my question is, what'd you get me?
Ooh, I forgot.
Perfect, because so did I. That's great. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Nice. How's the air quality over there?
So I'm in DC as we're recording this, and it's not good. I got wildfires all over Canada, I guess is what's going on. In Eastern Canada, the smoke is just coming down this way on the East Coast. I am glad I'm leaving today.
Oh, nice. We had oh, you're leaving today. 3-day weekends must be nice.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah. So there's quite a bit to talk about because we usually try to talk about anything in the 7th Congressional District, Northern Wisconsin, or Wisconsin, and then also anything happening in D.C. Well, over the last month, D.C. news has been dominated by the debt ceiling, so I want to talk to you about that. But first, let's start in the 7th Congressional District. You have been in our area quite a bit recently. I think my dad I saw some pictures he posted at a Lincoln Day dinner that you were at here in Washburn County. I think it was just last weekend. So you've been in Northwest Wisconsin, our area, a little bit. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, hey, can I go back to the wildfire thing?
Oh, sure.
There is a very clear reason why the wildfires are happening. Of course, we've experienced it in Wisconsin, right? Over the last, what has been about the last month and a half, we've been getting that smoke that's been wafting in every now and then into Wisconsin,
Yep.
fouling our air. And it's wildfires in Canada. So a couple things I'd comment on. It is my understanding that some of the fires in Western Canada were deliberately set. I haven't had that confirmed, but I understand that they've been deliberately set. I sure hope they find that person that's doing it. The second thing is the problem is that we're not clearing out the underbrush, the dead trees, stuff like that in many of these forests. And Canada has the same problem we have here in the United States. Why have we been having these massive fires in the Western United States as well as in now Canada? A big part of it is they're not managing our forests as they should, allowing diseased trees to stand. They are much more likely to be a problem with wildfire. And then also just the understory, the underbrush of trees dying, things like that, and they're not cleaning them out. And so that really raises the fire risk. And that's a big part of what is going on here. And it's the preservationist mentality that, gosh, we just can't touch these forests. Well, if you're not going to touch the forest, Mother Nature's going to, one way or another. Mother Nature's going to touch them. And that's why we should be doing active management on our forests. We're hoping that we're beginning to turn the corner here. We've done a number of bills in natural resources. So anyway, I just wanted to comment about
Sure.
that. We need better management on these national forests, both in Canada, and we can do something about it in the United States.
Sure. Thank you for going through that. So, Kevin James, you had, we'll get to this in a little bit. I don't want to forget this comment. We'll come back to it. Yeah, we'll come back to that in a little bit because we want to get into the debt ceiling topic. But first, we want to kind of start in our area. So, going back to the original, you were in our area recently. Was it just for I think there's a lot of Lincoln Day dinner stuff, right?
Yeah. So last Saturday, I started out in the morning. Oh boy, what did I get there? About 8, 9 o'clock at the Picknell family farm down in Prairie Farm for the Barron County Dairy Breakfast. It was great once again. Hundreds, probably thousands of people were served. Once again, thank you to the Picknells for opening their farm for what is such a great tradition here in Wisconsin, June Dairy Month and the June Dairy Breakfast that go on in so many counties across
Yeah.
Wisconsin. And so I had a chance to go there, flip pancakes, and it was a great time. And by the way, Washburn County has theirs coming up in Spooner this weekend, right?
Yeah, I think Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah.
You were there last year flipping pancakes.
I made it last year. I'm sorry I'm not going to make it this year, but you should go to it.
I'm
because
100% going. I always go to those. Those are wonderful.
It's a great thing. And then went up to the Lincoln Day dinner. For those people that are not familiar with those, of course, Abraham Lincoln was the very first Republican president in the United States of America, one of America's greatest presidents. And we celebrate all things Republican by recognizing Abraham Lincoln. So we had a Lincoln Day dinner up in just north of Spooner last Saturday night, and it was terrific. Really had a good time and had a chance to meet lots of people, including your dad.
Yeah, Dad was there. Again, he's a supporter of yours. Dad, Terry Dryden, former sheriff of Washburn County for 28 years, but he retired a few years ago. Listen, I put something up this morning. I know you haven't had a chance to probably read it. I shouldn't say no, but I assume you haven't. It was embargoed until 7 o'clock this morning. It was a new study from Dale Knapp, who's just great, from Forward Analytics. And our headline was, Study Shows Wisconsin is Facing an Alarming Number of Fentanyl-Related Deaths. Now, Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald and I, on our weekly Positive Tuesday benefit you shows, oftentimes end up talking about fentanyl, and we have been for a couple of years. That this has just been, horrific. I think you and I have talked about it a little bit, but this was a new study that just came out. I just want to briefly read the first part, and that was Wisconsin is in the middle of an epidemic of drug overdose deaths driven largely by illegal fentanyl. This is now the number one killer of Wisconsin residents aged 25 to 54. First of all, what? That's crazy. According to this study from Forward Analytics called Silent Killer, overdose deaths associated with synthetic opioids, primarily fentanyl, increased more than 1,000% from 2015 to 2021, claiming more than 4,300 Wisconsin lives. You were in Wisconsin legislature. You are now a congressperson representing the 7th Congressional District. What can we do about this?
So first of all, good work on the part of Dale Knapp, but he's characterizing this inaccurately. Fentanyl is the number one killer of young people in America now, and this has been going on for a few years. Nearly 100,000 people died in America in 2022 as a result of fentanyl poisonings. These are not overdoses, and you need to change how you speak about this, and all Americans need to change how they speak about this. These are not overdoses. These are poisonings. The fentanyl analogs come from the communist Chinese government. They ship the analogs to Mexico. The Mexican cartels brew the fentanyl, and then they put it into fake Adderall, Percocet, other type of pills. They put it into the gangs and cartels. They put it into marijuana. They put it into heroin. They put it in all types of places like this, and it is deadly. And it is meant to kill Americans. And there is one way in which we can reduce this immediately if there was the political will to do it. And that would be to secure the southern border. We passed a bill just a month ago, the Secure the Border Act, that will do more to stop these fentanyl poisonings than anything else. And I got to tell you, this is unconscionable to me. And I don't mean to put too fine of a point on it. But it is unconscionable that people out in Washington, D.C., that represent their constituents across America have not recognized that this is a disaster for the United States of America. And the number one thing that can be done to stop it is to secure the border. Yet we have a political party at this point that refuses to acknowledge it. In fact, they are making it worse every single day by being in denial of saying, oh no, the border is secured. Oh no, fentanyl is not because the border is unsecured. It is because the border is wide open. That is why this is happening.
So we've actually had several questions. I don't remember if you can see those questions. They're on there. There should be like a chat button or something on your screen.
Yeah, they're not popping up.
Yeah, it hasn't been working for Fitzy lately either, so we have to kind of figure that out.
They're popping up now.
Okay, so here's just some random, before we kind of move on to the debt ceiling thing and maybe touch a little bit more on the fentanyl. Here's just some random questions here. Well, not random, but here's one real quick. What do you think of the PGA Live merger?
I guess I'm not surprised that that happened. For people that are not familiar with it, that's the golf associations around the world. That isn't this what oftentimes happens? Think about for those of a certain age. Remember when the NFL and the AFL was around? NFL was the league that started way back. I don't even remember what year, but the Packers were in it. The Bears, that was the National Football League. The American Football League was the upstart that started, I think, in the 1960s. And boy, they competed and all the rest. What ultimately happened? They merged.
Yeah.
I think the same thing's happening here.
But I think a lot of the people's concern, and I'm not speaking for Bob here on this, but some of the outside looking in type of a thing and Live, and where does that money come from? And from a country, Saudi Arabia, and how they get that stuff. Is there any issues there? Do you see any? There's like, you know what? That's sports stuff. We stay out of it. Don't really care.
Yeah, that's a big question. Is with the Saudi money that went into LIV, what do they call themselves? Live. I'm not a golfer, so and when I do, I'm really bad.
Yeah, join the club. Yeah,
I could use a good club. So, they're just Saudi Arabia is involved with funding it, and there's great concern because many people believe the Saudis were involved with 9/11, and the money goes back to the Saudi oil, and so people. They have a sincere objection, and I understand that objection. What the Crown Prince in Saudi Arabia is saying now is that, hey, we're trying to get past this. We understand there's some bad history there, but we're trying to do the right thing here. And so, anyhow, I'm not taking sides on it. Sure. They decided to merge. Let sports be sports. Hey, can I highlight one question you got there?
You betcha.
Can we repeal Obamacare? Kelly's posing that question.
Can we be?
It's way on the bottom of my screen.
Yep, I see it. Yeah, same here.
Yeah, can we repeal Obamacare? I would just say real quickly in regards to that. So think about healthcare as we see it today. People cannot afford their premiums. Healthcare is becoming more expensive. We're seeing our hospital facilities continue to consolidate. We don't have family doctors the way we used to. It's headed in the wrong direction. There's no doubt about it. And I don't know, Kelly, if it's so much the answer at this point. Obamacare is in place, and it's really hard to repeal it. We saw it with previous Congresses before I was there. I think what we need to do is offer a free market alternative, though. Okay, let's leave Obamacare in place, even though it doesn't work. But let's offer free market solutions. And I know some of my colleagues out here are doing that so that we can get back to where we have the family doctor, where people can have portability for their health care. If they want to put money into health savings accounts, they should be able to do that and be able to keep it in there and allow it to be able to grow if they want to. We need to adopt some free market principles for those that choose, if you don't have health care provided by your employer, if you don't have other means to be able to get your health care, that those people that just want a free market solution, they should be able to have it. And then we'll have the other alternatives that are there too.
Okay. We'll do one more here real quick, and so we can move on. This is from Christina. I'm so worried that Janet Protasevich is going to make baby murder legal again in Wisconsin. So what are you doing to protect unborn lives in D.C.?
Yeah, so what she's referring to is the Supreme Court race that was decided on August 4th, where many people, we'll see how it plays out, but many people believe with there being 4 liberals of the 7 on the court, which I believe Janet Protasevich is, she becomes a Supreme Court Justice August 1st is when she's sworn in. Mm-hmm. People are very concerned that they're simply going to say that abortion is legal up to birth. That's what people are very concerned about. And I certainly am too. And I believe that there should be some restrictions on abortion. I voted in various ways. In the legislature before the Dobbs decision 6 years ago, I voted for the 20-week bill that came up that you can't have an abortion after 20 weeks. I would be open to other changes to that if people deem that it should be done. But at the end of the day, I would just say this. Every member on the Democrat side in Congress last year voted for unlimited abortion, all the way up to 9 months. That is unacceptable. I believe we can do much better. And I believe we can protect both the life and health of babies and mothers. I believe that we can do both, but we should not allow abortion all the way up to 9 months. What happens now with the Supreme Court with Janet Prosewicz in there? I don't know. We'll see what happens.
So that is something that is a Wisconsin issue specifically. Not issue, but issue. This thing, what's happening right now because of what happened and overturned with Roe or the Dobbs. I can't remember which one is officially.
The Dobbs decision.
Right. So is there anything in Congress at the national level, or is it no? This is now a state thing. Like we can't really do anything on our from a national level in Congress.
I mean, Congress could step in, and Congress can certainly act. It can be both a state and federal issue. Okay. And for example, Senator Lindsey Graham introduced a 15-week bill last year, and I supported the 15-week bill, just like I supported the 20-week bill, because I think it puts some reasonable restrictions around abortion. Because the last thing I want to see happen is that we have unlimited abortion up to 9 months. To me, that is unacceptable. I mean, think about having an abortion in the final trimester. Now, it's to save the life of the mother. That's a whole nother issue. But to simply do it to end the baby's life in the final trimester, I think most people find that to be unacceptable.
So we do these shows the second Thursday of every month. The last time you're on, so last month, we briefly touched on the debt ceiling because I'd asked what's kind of coming up in D.C. this month, and you said debt ceiling. So we briefly touched on it, and sure enough, for the last month, that has been up until maybe like a week ago, but it's still some storylines going on there that has dominated national news in politics, has been the whole process of the debt ceiling and everything that was going on, the deal that was made. You actually came out and you even sent a press release, I think we even posted that you had voted against this, which was actually against, I believe, the majority of your Republican Party. Why did you vote against this?
Yeah, I voted against it. So let's go back to the bill that we passed. I think it was at the end of April, the original bill. We, in exchange for giving President Biden $1.5 trillion increase in the debt limit, in other words, the American credit card, we gave him another $1.5 trillion. That's trillion with a T. And so in exchange for that, we got some cost savings in regards, we got some real reductions in the budget. I think the savings would have been like $150 billion. Plus, we got some really good pro-growth things in there that I like. Permitting reform, so it doesn't take 10 to 15 years to get an answer on a permit. We got work requirements put in place that you got to, if you're going to, if you're able-bodied, you should work. The elimination of the funding for the 87,000 IRS agents. We don't need to double the size of the IRS. So all that stuff was in there with the $1.5 trillion increase. I voted for that. I thought it was a good bill. I thought it was acceptable. I don't like the debt limit going up. I think federal government should spend within the American taxpayers' means. But anyhow, in the process in the ensuing month up till last week, there was negotiations going on between Speaker McCarthy, his team, and the Biden administration. And they ultimately ended up at $4 trillion, which was actually uncapped also. They can go over $4 trillion of additional spending. And then the work requirements were watered down. The permitting reform is still pretty good, I think. I haven't studied it thoroughly, but I think that's pretty good yet. But the 87,000 IRS agents, they're basically there yet. And I didn't think we got much in return. So on the so-called compromise bill, I believe the compromise bill was the original bill that we passed. But anyhow,
if $4 trillion is, you say $4 trillion, they're saying was the compromise?
Yeah, to me, that was unacceptable. And now some will say that there were some slight cuts in the budget, and you can argue there was, but it didn't amount to anything. And so at the end of the day, I could not go with the $4 trillion. And I would just say this to our listeners, Ben. The reason I ran for the state legislature in 2010, there was a few reasons, but there was one primary reason, and that is because Wisconsin had a $3 billion budget deficit. We're sitting on $32 trillion here in America and headed for $36 trillion. It is unacceptable, and that is why I voted against it.
Shortly after all of this came to fruition, Adam Jarchow, he was your colleague and peer when he was, 28th Assembly District. When he was in the legislature, you were also in the legislature. He submitted an op-ed to us, and we ran that. The op-ed headline was, "Tom Tiffany stands with us again." And just briefly, I just pulled out one part of this, and it says on the recent debt ceiling vote, our congressman, Tom Tiffany, voted against his party leadership. Bills don't get more high profile than the debt ceiling, and yet Congressman Tiffany stood his ground. It will surely come with a cost. You and I won't see it, but Tom will. There's more to this. There's a lot more to his op-ed. I thought it was really well done. I don't know if you had a chance to read it, or maybe you never even saw it, but is that accurate, you think?
Well, as only Adam Jarko can write it. Um,
Yeah, well, yeah, and he had mentioned in here that it could be things like it's hard to say what the repercussions will be, but there will be some priority bill of Tom's will get buried, or he won't get a desired committee assignment, or he will not receive campaign support from some leadership slush fund. And this is what Adam said, and Tom knows this. He's a bright guy. In fact, he's one of the most studious public servants I've ever met. Yet in the face of that, he stood his ground. Were you concerned at all when you voted against party leadership?
No. And actually what Adam, so it's a little bit procedural and it's in the weeds what Adam is talking about. Prior to voting for the bill, we have something called the rule. We have to pass a rule allowing a bill to come to the floor and that bill being voted on. So you got to vote for the rule first. And it is generally accepted, whether you're Republican or Democrat and you're in the majority, you vote for the rule because that's a procedural process and it allows the bill to come to the floor. So leadership understands to a certain extent that you may vote against the bill, but you got to vote for the rule because otherwise, as they would put it, you're turning the floor over to the minority. In this case, turning the floor over to the Democrats, giving them control of the floor. But I really thought that the bill, as it came back from the negotiation with President Biden, we had basically turned it over to the Democrats anyhow. So why did I vote against the rule? Because I thought we'd basically turn things over to the Democrats with what we'd passed with another $4 trillion plus of additional spending. So I chose to vote against the rule also, which was really the naughty thing that I did. And we will see what happens from there. I mean, you got to do what you think is the right thing.
Yeah.
What you do. And by the way, I have Republican colleagues out here that voted for the bill last week, and they will list reasons why they think it was worthy of voting for. I mean, one was the permitting reform. There's some good permitting reform stuff that's in there. At the end of the day, I just couldn't get over the $4 trillion.
I believe the student loan forgiveness thing, that was like a year ago. All this came up. I thought that ended up being in it or something. I thought I saw this morning even in the news or some website that the president just vetoed something about the student loan, and now he's just going to let the Supreme Court, I think, handle it. Where are we on that thing? Because that a lot of people are interested in that specific thing.
Yeah, so I'm glad you bring that up because that was in our original bill to stop the student loan bailout, the $400 billion. Because, I mean, our data shows that 87% of Americans do not get any benefit from it. They've either paid off their student loans or they never took a student loan, whatever the case may be. So 87% of the Americans don't benefit from that. So why would we stick the bill on those people? And so we had that in the original bill. That's another thing that came out. There were some provisions in there, but it really watered it down. At this point, if you want to see that go away, our next best hope is with the federal Supreme Court, and that they may say, hold it, this is unconstitutional. You can't make people pay for this. You did not pass this through Congress. In fact, President Biden, I think, the administration did something that was very cynical. I believe they know it's unconstitutional what they did with the student loan bailout. And they're making the court do the dirty work rather than them. And they did it in the middle of the campaign last year in 2022 when they said to those young people out there that got student loan debt, and by the way, I have 2 daughters that have student loan debt, and they should have to pay it back, not the rest of us. We made that decision as a family, and they did personally, to take on that student loan debt. I think it was very cynical on the part of the Biden administration. And they said, we're going to buy those votes from those young people and say, gosh, aren't those Republicans in the Supreme Court so bad? I don't think the Supreme Court has any choice in this. It was unconstitutional what President Biden did. Nancy Pelosi said as much 2 years ago that this student loan forgiveness has to go through Congress if it's to be done.
I think I'm going to take that strategy, that approach in parenting.
At home.
Anytime the kids ask for something, hey, can we have like ice cream for breakfast? I'm like, yeah, 100%. I think you should be able to. Double check with mom though, and mom says no. Oh, well, mom said no. She's the worst. See, and then I'm the good guy. I get basically their votes. I'm just gonna do that all the time. Say yes to everything, but double check with mom.
So, sir, just so you know, usually in most marriages, there's some checks and balances in place. Let me tell you what the check on that will be, because I've tried it. You will pay a price.
Yeah. Now I think that through. That's not a good idea.
Go ahead, do it.
Kevin McCarthy. How's he doing? This may be something that you didn't agree with, this debt ceiling, but there are things, well, speaking of, my wife and marriages, there's things I'm sure that my wife doesn't particularly care about me, but overall, it's, still love you, but maybe sweep the floor every once in a while. So this may be something that you didn't necessarily agree with Kevin McCarthy. But is overall, he's still doing a good job. We just didn't agree on this one. Is the general consensus that he's still doing a good job?
Yeah, I think he's done a good job. I think he's done a good job. And remember, one of the reasons that we knew what was in the bill, because if you remember, under Nancy Pelosi's leadership, these bills would come to the floor and we'd have 2 hours to review them, 1,000-page bill, and then you got to vote on. You don't know what's in a bill like that. We, as part of the rules that Kevin McCarthy agreed to become Speaker McCarthy, is we get at least 72 hours to be able to review a bill. And that's why we knew what was in there, because otherwise, sometimes you might be, I got to vote with leadership. Well, after having 72 hours to review it, I knew I didn't want to vote for it. And so that's part of the good changes that have happened. I got to tell you, he's going to have to stand firm in the appropriations process here now, however.
What is that?
And when the spending bills go through, with how much we're going to spend, and that happens in the appropriations process, I hope he stands firm, because the American people want some fiscal responsibility to happen. I would say I have a little difference of opinion on how he went about the negotiation. I don't think he should have negotiated with President Biden. He should have negotiated with Senator Schumer. When we passed our bill a month ago, he should have said, this is going over to the Senate. We wait for the Senate to send a bill back. Either they can pass our bill, which is terrific, or they should send their alternative back to us. We go to conference committee and we come to agreement.
Yeah, how it's supposed to work.
It's a separate branch of government, the presidency. We should have been negotiating with the Senate. That'd be the difference of opinion.
Oh, I just assume that's what happened. So.
Well, we ended up negotiating with the White House, which I don't think that's what we should have done. This was about Congress. We authorize spending bills. We should have sent it to the Senate.
That's your job. Just do your job. Right, exactly. Here's another thing. You had introduced, there's a headline here, Representative Tiffany reintroduces legislation to strengthen America's food chain supply. What is that about?
Which bill is that?
I don't know. It's on your website. It's on your website. That was your headline. It was like a week and a half. Representative Tiffany reintroduces legislation to strengthen America's food chain supply. I didn't actually read it. I probably should have.
I got to go back and double check that, because we've done a few bills that have been agriculturally related here recently. Next month, remind me of this, and I'll be sure to get you an answer.
Sure.
One of the bills we just introduced is the Milk Act. We did that this week, and President Biden, the Biden administration wants to outlaw chocolate milk in kids' schools, and we've introduced a bill that says, hands off kids' chocolate milk. For generations, kids have been drinking chocolate milk in school, and now you want to outlaw it.
Yeah, I didn't know. Kind of like, there was a question earlier in somewhere and said something. There it is. I didn't understand it. Tom, thank you for standing up against the woke left's tyranny on milk. And I'm like, I don't even know what he's talking about. Is that what it is? I didn't even know this was happening. There was potentially to get rid of chocolate milk.
Yeah, you think back to when Michelle Obama did her thing back when President Obama was in office, and she wanted to transform school lunches. I had school lunch directors that came to me and they said, "You stop this because we are not able to serve nutritious meals to our kids." And we understand they want good nutrition. That's what they're hoping for. But it's this whole ethos in Washington, D.C. that we know better than the rest of you. And this is what's going on with the milk thing, too, is they're saying, boy, we're going to dictate to you that you don't get to serve chocolate milk anymore. And it's really ridiculous. Leave it to the food service directors. I know many of them. And most of them are doing a good job of trying to get kids nutritious meals. Now, you can only lead a horse to water, right? I mean, that's all you can do is try to get good food on the table for those kids. If they eat it, that's a whole nother matter. But most of the food service directors I know do a good job, and they really are conscientious about that stuff. The Biden administration should butt out. It's just like gas stoves. They want to eliminate gas stoves now also. That's just ridiculous. Leave the American people alone and do something that's important for the American people, like rein in inflation, the cost of living, get us back to energy independence, secure the borders so we don't have fentanyl poisonings that are going on all over our country. Do something that's worthy of the American people.
I remember when that happened.
Sorry for the rant.
No, I love it. I love
show,
it.
sir.
And I remember when that was coming up, and I asked my mom, Diane Dryden, she's a published author, 3 novels. She's written for Dryden Wire quite a bit, a lot of stories. But she used to own a restaurant. And when this all happened, I had called my mom and I said, this thing and the Michelle Obama was doing this. I wasn't like for or against it. I didn't know. So I was just wondering, is this a good idea? Because she's, owned a restaurant and understands this stuff. She goes, oh, it's wonderful on paper, forcing people to have, take X amount of vegetables and X this. She said, but the number one thing you learn in the food industry is you don't look at what's going out, you look what's coming back. You look at the garbages. So when they bring the food back, what didn't they eat? So you could have a chicken and with, peas or something. Well, almost every time it comes back and the peas are still on the plate, wow, that was not a good combination and nobody's eating it. So sure, you can make them take it, but I don't know if they're really going to eat it. So it seems like a little bit of a waste. It was just a perspective I had never thought about before. So go back to this gas stove thing. I've seen some headlines about it, but I've not researched it. By research, clicked on any of them to read what it was about. So a gas stove, I don't know how many gas stoves or what percentage of Americans have gas stoves. Why do we want to get rid of those?
Supposedly because it puts out harmful fumes, I believe.
Oh.
Is what they're saying, and affects children's health is part of it. The bigger part of it, though, is the elimination of fossil fuels. You have this whole movement in America that they say we don't want to use fossil fuels, so we got to get rid of gas stoves. I mean, it's ultimately we got to go to everything electric. And first of all, it's terribly inefficient. And also, you have many chefs that'll tell you we do a much better job cooking on a gas stove versus an electric stove. But ultimately, just leave the American people.
Wait a minute. So for some reason I was thinking heating gas stoves. I'm like, I can't picture what a gas stove even looks like. Oh, you mean
don't give them any ideas. They'll go after that too.
You mean ranges, quick? What?
Yeah, they're referring to ranges. Hey, sorry, we're gonna have to wrap this up. I got an FFA group that's here in DC. I gotta greet here in just a minute, so
very cool.
Gotta wrap it up. Sorry,
yeah,
sir.
No problem. All right, cool.
We always have so much fun.
I know. I love it when you come on. Thanks so much. We'll see you about a month from now.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, have a great 4th of July. Enjoy June Dairy Month. Go to a dairy breakfast. It's a great thing, great tradition in Wisconsin. Eat cheese. Eat chocolate milk. It's good for you.
Special thank you to our guest today, Wisconsin's 7th Congressional District Representative Tom Tiffany, for taking the time to come on and chat with us today. I'll see you right back here on Tuesday when Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald and I will be back for our latest Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy show. So until then, for DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden saying thank you for watching, and as always, have a blessed day.